Lights on. Hey everyone. Hi. Welcome everybody to AbelDanger. Can you see us?
Yeah, they can see us.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
we're having a special edition today of the eulogy of George H.W. Bush, who Field is making some predictions on. And luckily, Field was one of the very last people to interview HW on his deathbed, which we were thinking maybe he'd come back from the dead, but when you're in hell and you're burning, you can't really talk or channel through somebody. So Field and I were just talking about our very last interview, the exclusive one that of all people, Field McConnell got to give to the very evil George H.W. Bush. So we're grateful for Field's presence here today. We're both, I was hoping that he was going to be wearing his suit to eulogize him, but then we decided, you don't eulogize somebody in a suit that doesn't deserve that kind of respect. So here we are talking about George H.W., and we're sharing it with the world today. And hopefully everybody will enjoy these very candid answers that we received from Mr. Bush before he died. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and just so they know, um, we, Marcy and I both solicited questions from the viewers at AbelDanger Campfire Chat. I don't know if anybody solicited Discord. I don't have time. That's why we're not late because of the lack of time, but a lot of people get sort of energized as the shows approach and they want to send me stuff at the last minute. And every one of those last minute things, cost us time. And we want to be as prepared as we can time wise, but, nobody has 29 hours a day. Having said that, what we asked the chat room, Campfire, was if anybody has any questions, to send them to Marcy. Don't send them to me because I don't know one single question that anybody has given to her because I don't like to be, I don't like to talk from a script. I mean, liars can do that. I don't like to talk from a teleprompter because people that really don't have too many redeeming features can be local broadcasters and do that. What I like to do is I like to answer questions that I cannot anticipate because that gives me the opportunity to say, I don't know, because I don't know everything. I may not even know much, but I do know what I know and I know what I don't know. So having said that, I'll just say that last January of 17, Ian R. Crane from the Alternative View called me from London, excuse me, maybe from Plymouth, England. He called me from England in January of 17 and said, what would you like to speak on at the conference this year, which was in May of 17? And I said, well, I haven't been invited to the conference yet. And he said, well, I just assumed you knew. And I told him, well, I don't assume much, but if you want me to come, I'll be there. He said, good, what would you like to talk about? And I said, we had this discussion last year because I don't want to talk about what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what the host or the listeners want to talk about. He said, okay, but humor me. You'll see why I'm telling this story. He said, humor me. If you were going to pick what you want to talk about, what would you like to talk about? So in January of 2017, I said, Ian, I'd like to eulogize George H.W. Bush. And there's this pregnant pause 4,000 miles away. And he says, wait a minute, he's not dead yet. And I said, well, Ian, it's not May yet. I said, maybe he'll have the civility to help me speak rationally about his crimes against humanity in a timely fashion. Well, history has proven that Ian was correct. He said, well, you can't eulogize him because he's not dead. I said, okay, then you tell me what to talk about. And he told me to talk about how global pedophilia is used by the somewhat Western nations to control the government people. Like up in Canada, there's a guy under control named Justin Castro. Right now in Washington, D.C., there's a macaroni man that's got an older wife who used to be his teacher. But anyway, now you know the background of why I wanted to eulogize George H.W. Bush, and I think the only person that I could more professionally eulogize, and that guy hadn't died yet either, although I anticipated, is John McCain. So that's enough of an introduction. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, sure. So do you mind if I just ask you the questions like you asked him? And so the answers are coming as if he answered them?
Well, yes, we'll just, you ask the questions.
All
We'll see
right,
what I
because
do.
these questions are from our fans and our audience, and I think
Oh,
everybody really wants to know what would George say to these questions?
Okay, I'll give you, if George were honest.
Well, he was with your interview with him, right?
Yes, yeah, it was rather cryptic, not crypt like. Did you send me an email about crypt?
The Crypt Keepers.
Yeah. When I say cryptic, I mean coded or on another level. But yeah, I think I could speak for him or John McCain or Christine Marcy. But
okay.
Well, why don't we start on George, because he might be listening.
Sure.
And if he dies at 9:11 p.m. or 9:11 a.m. I would like for him to see how good my memory is.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I guess the first question would be, let's see, I don't even know where to start. I think we should kind of start in the middle of the presidency, and well, let's start from the beginning.
Okay, and I'm going to steal this because I need to keep notes too. But go ahead, you.
George, what did you do to Tesla, Nikola Tesla? Any idea what happened there? Did you work in his lab?
You know what? I don't know, but I think it goes back another generation, doesn't it?
I don't know.
I think
these
so.
are just questions that want to be answered.
Well,
what did you do with Tesla's papers, including his many patents that he had access to and created?
I think he's ignored a vast majority of them because some of Tesla's patents include free energy. Exactly. And the Rockefeller dynasty and the Rothschilds, and of course, George H.W. Bush, his own family goes back 1, 2, 3, 4 generations. He had a guy named Sam who was his great-grandfather. No, his grandfather. Sam Scherf was his grandfather. Okay. And Sam Scherf was one of the major stockholders in Remington Arms, which is a weapons manufacturer in the United States of America, which is currently in bankruptcy protection. Then the next generation of these people was Prescott Bush, who was a banker during World War II at Brown Harriman or something Browns. Anyway, I don't even want to visualize a Brown Harriman, but somebody in the chat room will put up the name of the bank and I'll watch for it. And but anyway, from this very powerful and evil bank on the East Coast during World War II, Prescott Bush, who's the father to George H.W. Bush, he was aiding and abetting the enemy, and he was using the financial power of his banking enterprise to arm the German military at the same time that he was protecting Germany and German manufacturing from the Allied air raids. So the American Air Force couldn't go over. And back then, typically the American Air Force attacked Germany during the day. And I want to be corrected immediately in the chat room if I misspeak. The English Air Force, they typically would attack at night. And I have no idea why they had that, but that was the protocol. But there's a person that lives within 50 miles of here. What's the really prestigious part east of Minneapolis where there's a lot of shopping?
Edina? Woodbury?
Woodbury. There's a man that used to own Woodbury, and it was a farm. And so when he sold it and they made Woodbury out of it, he and his family made a lot of money. Well, he had money before that because he was a descendant of the German manufacturers that made engine components for the reciprocating engines of the World War II fighters and bombers that the Luftwaffe flew. And specifically, if I'm not mistaken, his family, which was M-A-H-L-E, that's pronounced Mali, M-A-H-L-E, that family produced ball bearings and pistons. And as anybody knows from listening to an airplane fire up a reciprocating engine, they probably need ball bearings and pistons and oil and fuel to operate. But I talked to him one day right here in this office, or Molly's restaurant, spelled different, Molly apostrophe S. And he really likes what I do, or what AbelDanger does. And AbelDanger used to be David Hawkins, myself, Craig Peterson, and Tim Roberts in Japan. But we have no idea how many people align with AbelDanger now. And that's why I'm so busy, frankly. For instance, did you see the radio show, Ed?
Yes.
Okay, there's a picture of a monument to Irish orphan girls. I don't even like thinking about what happened to orphan girls in any country. But anyway, that came in overnight from our Agent Crusher down in Australia, and Agent Crusher has been hanging around AbelDanger for about 8 years. I'm going to check the chat room. I don't want to ignore them, but I have to stay somewhat focused, which I'm always criticized for not being focused. Well, you try carrying this intellectual crap around and see how you feel. Anyway, the reason that Alan, or Agent Crusher, sent me that is because not only does that back up what we said yesterday, David and I, about the Irish genocide, and now I'm going to go off in another direction. So whoever doesn't like going different directions, hang up now. It's not going to get any better. So
I promise they're going to learn so much about Bush here.
Oh yeah, we are. Yeah,
we're going to drop so many truth bombs.
Yes,
it's going to blow your mind.
I hope so. I look forward to it. I'm hoping I'm capable of it. But yesterday, David and I talked about the Irish genocide, which I'd never heard of until 2 days ago. But there's a book written about it, and the author of the book is Christopher Fogarty. And I talked to him yesterday. I talked to him the day before, and I found out that not only were the Irish killed by the United Kingdom, and somebody might say, what's that have to do with the Bush family? Well, they were sold out to the United Kingdom. You can look at G.H.W. Bush and his kid, G.W. Bush, and they played patty cake with the United Kingdom over 9/11. And so I want to say how impressed I am with the chat room and our correspondents around the world. But sometimes over the last 11 years, I've gotten a comment from somebody who respects what we're trying to do, and they would say, I wish there was something I could do to help AbelDanger. And my answer is always the same. I said, you might have some information you could send us. And typically people say, well, I think you already know what I have to offer. And my answer then is, well, if you don't have anything to help us with intelligence, why don't you say a prayer? And well, the fact that we're still alive and kicking is because God has been protecting AbelDanger, period. But anyway, I think I answered your question,
sure.
did I?
Well, we talked, yeah, sure. You answered it.
I got down
Speaking
to 2
of,
generations, and I left 2 generations for later.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was, George, you were in a plane crash, right? You were involved in some type of crash?
Oh, you asking George
Yeah,
H.W. Bush?
yeah.
No, it wasn't a crash at all.
Did you write a letter to Barbara before that crash?
Yes. I knew that I was going to participate in an attack on Ichi Jima. Don't write that down. It could be wrong. We'll have to ask someone in the chat room. Was I correct in saying that the strike in September of 1944, I think, was against Ichi, I-C-H-I, Jima, J-I-M-A, because 3 days or 4 days before he allegedly was shot down, he told his wife he was shot down. Mm-hmm. And he said he was shot down 3 or 4 days. And how do we know this? Because the letter, he foolishly held up the letter like it's a badge of courage. And on the letter, there's a postmark. And the postmark was 3 or 4 days before the incident happened. So not only is he a liar and a traitor, but he's also sloppy. But on the day of this attack, a majority, as I recall, of the U.S. Navy forces that were attacking this Japanese island were shot down, either by anti-aircraft fire or by other aircraft, which brings me to my father, because my father was shot down by the Japs too, and he was a POW. But this guy, George H.W. Bush, he wasn't a POW, and he didn't get shot down. He flew to the coordinates. What coordinates means is north, east, south, west. He flew to a position where he knew there was a U.S. submarine waiting to pick him up. And then he bailed out of his 3-person aircraft, and the other 2 people in his aircraft, which was still functioning, the other 2 people had no controls. And so when George H.W. Bush bailed out, he effectively murdered his 2 crewmates. And there's way too much murdering of military people going on by families like the Clintons, the Bushes, the Obamas, which his name's not Obama, it's Barry Soetoro. In fact, my hearse is outside. Did you see it?
Yeah, I wish we could take the camera out there, but we'll have to put some more pictures in.
Yeah, your thing went off. Is it
It's
sleeping?
still recording. No,
Okay, yeah. We'll get a picture before we leave, before I leave here today, or before I go call Denise. I will see if we can get somebody to take our picture out there. I might even put on my white cowboy hat, which was given to me by Captain McHale. That's what I call her, Captain McHale, of New York City. And that was to honor a family member that was injured on the attack of 9/11. And the attack of 9/11 has George H.W. Bush's fingerprints all over it. And I've said many times that he personally made $1 trillion on the attack of 9/11. And if you'd notice, my hearse doesn't have a bumper hitch.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I drove the hearse today is, you know, I have such a tight relationship with the family. I thought they might want me to come up and, you know, honor the remains.
Oh.
But then I'm anticipating another death, and so I only can put 1 coffin in the back. So I've found somebody to rent me a manure spreader, and so you know, whoever gets picked up second can ride
So
the
it's
manure.
right now it's reserved though for him, for George.
Well, I'm thinking that he's next up.
He's first, yeah.
Well, the reason I think that is because he's talking about how ill he is, and watch him go from ill and intensive care to feeling better, just like his wife did. One day last week,
Mm-hmm.
she had decided to just get comfort care. Then they published an obituary of her, and then they retracted the obituary, and that's why we're doing this, is because, you know, we compete with ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, and the only mainstream media outlets that I think are close to honest would be Russia Today. These other ones I named, the 5 in the U.S., they're controlled by the Murdochs and those type of scumbags. And so I don't want to be caught short without an obituary and a eulogy.
Yeah.
So just in case he's faking his death, or in case he already died and they lost my cell number, I wanted to do this so we can have it in the can. Are we doing this live, or
questions need to be answered? I mean,
are we recording for later, or are we live right
now? We're live right now and recording for later.
Okay.
So, and that fake crash, who coordinated the submarine that picked him up?
Well, you'd have to think that Prescott Bush would have had a hand in that. By the way, Prescott Bush, his father, when he was judged and whatever that word is, convicted of aiding and abetting the enemy, the president commuted his sentence and pardoned him, and they expunged the record. I don't think there's a record of it, but you know, I don't know how closely you looked at the radio show I had today, but I found an interesting piece on the crimes of the Bush family, and I printed a label from a bottle of wine called 19 Crimes. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I was going.
I was wondering what that was. It's so interesting. 19 Crimes.
You didn't figure it out?
Well, now I am. Right now. Yeah, I mean.
Well, no, but you're missing something, I think. Where do you think the 19 crimes, where were the crimes committed, and where were the crimes served? In other words, the sentence. They were committed in one nation and they were sentenced
somewhere else.
Yeah, there were 19 crimes back in the 1800s or 1700s that would get you a one-way ticket to Australia. And whatever those 19 crimes are, I don't know. But it's also a wine, and I noticed a bottle of wine at Vino in the Valley, which is about 8 miles that way. And so I was reading the bottle, and it listed off the 18 crimes that could get you a one-way ticket to Australia. But I started reading. I was going to put all 19 crimes of the Bush crime family in order. I got down to about number 6 or 7, and there was going to be more than 19. Yeah. So the reason I stopped, I was running out of time, number one. I also have an artist friend whose name is Hacksaw, And I'm sure that Hacksaw within 24 hours will take that 19 crimes label and put G.H.W. Bush's face on it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't think it's very correct from a Christian standpoint or even a civil government standpoint to take populations of people and oppress them. And the UK government, they were oppressing Indians when they were going over the British West India Drug Company. They would go over to India and rape them to bring back things. And then they had the trilateral slave trade, the English people did, where they would pick up black people in Africa, bring them to the U.S. to be slaves on the colonies that were owned by England. In fact, as of right now today, we are the corporation of the United States of America, and we are, in fact, a slave colony. And the form of slavery, we're slaves to the financial system. That's called debt slavery, which, even though I just said we are, I think that was remedied on Friday the 13th. But we don't know that. And it's not because the media won't tell us. It's because the people running this country, which are Trump and 3 other Marines, they don't want everybody to get scared, confused, nervous, and have a civil war. Civil war is exactly what Hillary and her ilk want. And if they can't do that, they want to get the UK and Israel to participate in World War III. But our effective government, not the elected government, but the people running this country, which, and those names are Trump, Mattis, Kelly, and Dunford. Those guys have cool heads, and they recognize the evil that the UK government has been for 300 or 400 years. And so there is a remedy. It's coming. And a lot of times people question me and doubt that I could possibly know what's coming. And the truth is, I really don't. But I have 99% confidence that we're going to gain victory over evil. We being the good people around the world, white and yellow, red and black, doesn't matter, shades of brown. The good people aren't going to put up with this much longer. And Donald Trump and his associates have scheduled a victory parade for the 11th of November of 2018. And that has a special place in my heart because in addition to being Veterans Day, it's my parents and their pictures up on that wall. My parents that's their anniversary. They were married on 11/11/45. And the day before it, in other words, the 10th of November, is the Marine Corps birthday. And effectively, the United States Marine White Hats, I'll say that again, I'm really tired. United States Marine White Hats, there's always been, I mean, not very many, but there have been bad Marines, for instance, the ones that killed Colonel James Sabow, a Marine associate that I flew from the same base with. But it's germane that I'm mentally wandering because when Colonel James Sabow was murdered early in the morning of 22 January 1991, it was at the orders of George H.W. Bush. And the reason he ordered it is because the next day or within days, he was going to attack Iraq in the first Desert War. And he could not have survived politically if my peer, Colonel James Sabow, had gained a listening audience because he was talking about how C-130s, that's a Hercules over to you folks in Europe, C-130s, a Lockheed 4-engine turboprop, they were hauling cocaine into the LA basin right there at the Marine Corps Air Station where Sabow and I were stationed. So George H.W. Bush couldn't have survived that politically because in June of 1989, he narrowly dodged a bullet when it was reported that he was having adolescent male callboys travel from Boys Town in Nebraska through Offutt Air Force Base, through Andrews Air Force Base, to the White House and to the Naval Observatory. And the significance of the Naval Observatory is and was that that's where the vice president lives.
Speaking of boys, that's one of the questions for George.
Oh, good.
Is was Barbara complicit in your pedophilia, or did she just have some knowledge of the torture and murder that you were, involved with?
Oh, I think she had to know. I although that, now that I think about it, I was just going to say, because most wives know what's going on. Not always. When I went to Kazakhstan, I had a wife that thought I was doing A, B, C, and D. And the truth is, I never did A. But because of the nature of my writing, anyone that read my writing, and I also had photographs to support the writing, which was a lot of fun. Over in Kazakhstan, the pilots and the flight attendants knew what I was writing about, which is basically the criminal cabal that has tried to destroy the United States of America, and that heavily is anchored by the multi-generational oppression put on us by the Bush family and also by the McCain family. And later, these Clintons rolled into town and started doing it. But when you talk about Bush, Clinton, or Obama, you're talking about George H.W. Bush, because he became the president, in fact, on the 30th of March of 1981, when he had some of the CIA friends shoot Ronald Reagan, not to kill him, but to put him on notice that he could be killed anytime that he didn't allow George H.W. Bush to be the executive. And George H.W. Bush did 2 terms in place of Ronald. He did one of his own. Then he put Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton, by the way, is a Rockefeller, put Bill Clinton in for 2 terms. Then he had his own son in for 2 terms. Then he had Barack Obama, whose real name is Barry Soetoro, Soetoro, who went to my high school in Hawaii. 4 or 5 years ago, you could find his real name in the records at Punahou School. Can't do that anymore because some blabbermouth in Wisconsin was publishing them. But anyway, I'm digressing like David Hawkins.
Oh no, you answered a lot of the questions. I mean, you're answering a lot of these questions. Is when exactly did you find and groom Barry Soetoro? How did you find him and why?
That's a question only George. He's never told me. But Barry Soetoro was fathered in November of 1960, just before Christmas. Somebody impregnated Obama's mother, who's strangely dead, and Obama's grandmother, who's strangely dead. It's almost like the Clinton flu. Anybody that knows anything about Obama is strangely dead, like his gay lovers, off the top of my head. Donald Young, Larry Bland, Nate Spencer, Alex O'Krent, and Larry Sinclair. Yeah, anybody who ever swaps heavenly bodily fluid with Obama dies. And people say, well, Field, you got a pretty big mouth. Aren't you afraid of dying? The answer to that is no. Next question.
Why did you allow, basically, what changed your mind, George, on letting Ross Perot cost you a victory in '92? Why did you want to put Bill Clinton in there also?
Okay. Did you say something about H. Ross Perot?
Yeah.
What was the question?
The question is, why did you change your mind and let Ross Perot cost you a victory in 1992?
Okay, I don't know how Ross Perot cost him the victory.
Just a question.
That's the question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, whoever asked the question doesn't know the answer, I don't think.
Well, that's what we're asking. Okay, next
No,
question.
no, because I do have something to say.
Oh, okay.
Did you just say that G.H.W. Bush was denied the victory in 1992 by Ross Perot?
The question is, why did you change your mind and let Ross Perot cost you a victory in 1992? Because he was only 1 term. Why was he only
Well, he was actually 3 terms.
Well,
but I know. According to our poor history, did you see the very nice comment from Dirty Driveway about correcting the revisionist history? There's a very learned man over in England whose real name is not Dirty Driveway, but then your real name isn't Agent Marcy, M-A-R-C-Y. But we're spoofing the evil people because they think they're spoofing us.
Yeah.
I've said this many times. In order for them to pull off this big lie, they have to fool everybody of every generation. And I'm not sure if they've ever fooled everybody, but now the wheels are coming off their cart. And if some guy, that drives really old cars in Plum City can figure this out and broadcast it and not die, well, it either means they're really sloppy, which they are, and I would challenge the listeners or the viewers to Google Hillary Clinton sloppy seconds and Field McConnell. And people say, well, you know, sometimes Field, you're almost offensive in the way you write. Well, my answer to that is everything they do is offensive to me. They lie to their population. They attack and abuse their own children, meaning the children of their country. They kill the children. They drink their blood. How can anything like sloppy seconds compare to murdering children, starting wars? G.H.W. Bush, I think one of his first big accomplishments was he participated in killing JFK so that LBJ could then get all of his drinking buddies in Texas billions of dollars, because unbeknownst to most people in America, when they had the phony Gulf of Tonkin incident, that was involving the USS Bonhomme Richard, which is French for Good Man Richard. Well, have you ever heard of the Doors, the rock group?
Of course, yeah.
Jim Morrison was the creative genius.
Yeah.
His father was the captain of the Bonhomme Richard when they did the fake Gulf of Tonkin incident.
Really?
Yes, but he didn't. I can't say for sure what George S. Morrison knew or didn't know, but before it was all over, he was the captain of the ship that got us to escalate Vietnam, which is what Kennedy did not want, and LBJ, which in Spanish means something interesting. But we'll leave that for another day.
We have lots of, lots of JFK questions. And
oh, good.
Lyndon
Well,
Johnson stuff.
I don't want to run you.
It's a great tie-in.
What time do you have to leave to go back and pick up your daughter?
About 50 minutes.
50?
Yep.
Oh, well,
yeah.
You speed me up if I need to speed up.
I'll try. So
Good
who
luck.
exactly was working for you in Dealey Plaza on November 22nd, 1963?
Well, who wasn't working for him, except as patsy, was Lee Harvey Oswald. You can always tell when the Bush and Clintons are using somebody because they'll always have three names, like Hillary, Rodham, Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
Well, gag me with a spoon, you old bag. Everyone knows your middle name, your maiden name. Why do we have to listen to you? Why don't you just say Hillary? You're just like Michael Jackson. You're just like Prince. You're just like Elvis. And you're sort of like Lennon, meaning John Lennon. Everyone knows your name, and this is not a Cheers commercial.
Yeah.
You know, the bar where everyone knows your name. We know who you are. And I just want to say that I know very intimately who you are, because on the 21st of August, 2014, I was in the jury box of a trial, pedophilia trial. And before releasing the alternate jurors, the judge looked at all of us 12 and said, do any of you 12 have a personal relationship with pedophilia? And I raised my hand with no expression. Have you ever seen me have no expression for this long?
No.
No. This is an act.
Yeah.
I'm really smiling on the inside.
I know.
Because I know we have their ass. But the judge said, do any of you guys and gals have a personal history of pedophilia? He said, and he looked at his cheat sheet. They're not that smart. He goes, seat number 6, McConnell. Mr. McConnell, you have a personal history of pedophilia? I said, yes, Judge, and it's critical. I said, Judge, not Your Honor. Mm-hmm. I don't honor him, and he's not my judge. But he's not.
I know.
No, I have another judge.
And their ego is like, they're all corrupt. Half of them are corrupt too. So.
Oh, it's a joke, and the joke's on them. You notice I'm not locked up?
Yeah, I know.
Notice I'm not dead?
It's a beautiful day too.
It is. It's 58 or 68 degrees out there. Anyway, I said, yes, Judge, my sister and Hillary Clinton run the largest global net-centric pedophile procurement network in the world. I'm not kidding you. This guy that would like the world to think he's a grown-up, he put his hands over his ears. Too much information, you're excused.
And this is a case, you ask the question, you can't handle the truth. And
Yeah,
that's exactly why we're doing this, is because it is happening, the awakening is happening, and people need the truth, period.
You just said you can't handle the truth. I want the chat room to correct me. I'm not sure I'll see it because I'm sort of busy. But there was a character, Colonel Jessup, who was a Marine.
Oh, yes.
And then that queer guy that thought he was a fighter pilot.
Tom Cruise,
Yeah, that's him. Shorty. Yeah. When Colonel Jessup's character, which was, help me with the name, Jack Nicholson, the reason I needed help with the name is because I took a movie. In fact, there's some movies up there called Captain Sherlock. Jack Nicholson was in Kazakhstan on, you're not going to believe it, on September 11th of 2008. And I heard he was over at the hotel that was on the way to the airport. So I had to grab two movies and I went to the airport and I had a private driver, which makes me sound like a snob. Listen, if anybody thinks I'm a snob, they're clearly not seeing well. No, over in Kazakhstan, it's such an impoverished nation. I could probably spend the equivalent of $3 to $5 and have a brand new Mercedes take me to the airport.
Wow.
And I said, and I knew the guy. He was a 19-year-old kid that drove his daddy's car.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, when we go to the airport today, would you mind stopping at this snobby hotel? He said, no, not at all. So it was a snobby hotel. Somebody out there right now knows it. Watch how fast they put it in the chat room. It might be called the President's Hotel. It might be called something like that. It's a 5-star hotel in Astana, A-S-T-A-N-A, Kazakhstan. And in September of 2008, they were having the Eurasian, E-U-R-A-S-I-A-N, Eurasian Film Festival. So I go in, I'm glad we're telling this story. I go in with a disc and an airline uniform, and I go up to the reception person, and I said, I've got something I'd like to leave for Mr. Jack Nicholson from Hollywood. Do you know if he's in yet? And they said, no, Mr. Nicholson has not checked in yet. And then I hear a voice right over here. It says, I know Jack Nicholson. Can I help you? No, it wasn't him. It was Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you remember Blazing Saddles?
Yeah, you told me that you saw Richard Dreyfuss.
So I'm talking to reception. I hear this voice say, I know Mr. Nicholson. Can I help you? Yeah. I said, yeah, I'm trying to get this object to Mr. Nicholson. And then I saw his face. And I said, by the way, where were you in '62? Yeah. Which was a line, not only spoken, but in print. And so he was stunned because he had no idea I was an American. He knew I was a Caucasian. But here he is in Kazakhstan, and he thinks, how can this international airline pilot know what the catchphrase was? Yeah. Well, I'm not international. I'm from the same nation that Jack Nicholson. I'm smiling now. I got to stop doing that. Yeah. But okay, I'll go back to not smiling when I talk about the upcoming funeral.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. They may have already had it.
Well, yeah, I think. Are you guessing 9/11 Central Time tonight?
No, GMT.
Oh, GMT. Okay.
So that would be 0511. No, 0311. But what I've made a contract with America is that if I hear, I just pick random. You know, that was a random number, 9/11. Yeah. If he dies at 9/11 a.m. GMT, because the UK thinks the world revolves around them. Yeah. That's why we all have to have Greenwich Mean Time. Sure. Have you ever been to a bar in Greenwich, England? No. I have. It's called the Cutty Sark. And it's right next to the Greenwich clock. Okay. And it's right across from Canary Wharf, which is Canada Square, which is where all the banks that are evil are. And several months ago, probably in January, maybe December, I had forecast that if not Margaret Thatcher, Theresa May, the cucumber girl, and the goose-stepping geriatric, who's married to a Greek Swede, and she's a German. I forgot their name. Oh, Windsor. Yes, that's it. I said there's 10 target coordinate sets that are going to be attacked by cruise missiles. If you women that are running UK as an evil empire, if you don't step down by the 18th of January of 18, then I'm going to do nothing to stop the launching of cruise missiles made by Lockheed Martin against 10 targets. And then just to prove I was serious, I published the coordinate sets, in other words, east or west and north. And one of the targets that I shared with them was Westminster, which is where the House of Parliament is, I think. One of them was one of the Queen and Prince, you know, the really old, you know, do you know what Prince Philip's desire was to do after he died?
I don't want to know, probably.
Oh, it's okay. It has nothing to do with gender.
Okay.
He said he wanted to come back as a virus so he could cause death around the world. Now, his son, Prince Charles, I've got to clean this up, not just for you, but for them. Do you know what Prince Charles told that object he's married to, Camilla, is it Camilla Bowles?
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. It's Bowles. I think that's pronounced Bowles. Uh, he said he wanted to come back as a certain cotton item. And I'll leave it at that because not only does that offend me, it would offend, well, my wife's a Brit and she doesn't have a whole lot of respect for the way that the British Commonwealth has been oppressed by the people that are charged with taking care of their people. They're not taking care of the people. In the UK, they put them on some form of benefits. Then they slowly pull them off the benefits, which causes them to have no income and have no food. Well, let's see. No income, no food. How about the Irish genocide? Everyone knows about the Holocaust, and because of Hollywood and the media, I think, this is an opinion, not a fact, but I think the reason that everybody worries about the Jewish Holocaust, where 6 million people allegedly were killed, well, the Irish lost 5.2 million, and I just got corrected last night after the radio show. Somebody who knows a great deal about it and wants me to be accurate called me from area code 312 and said, you said it was 6 million, it was only 5.2. And so I thought about that character, Steve Martin, where he goes, well, excuse me.
Yeah.
You know, is it 5.2 or is it 6? Okay, it's 5.2 you killed. Okay, well, how many children and grandchildren did you stop from being born?
Right.
So no, they killed a bunch of Irish. They sent a bunch of Irish orphans over to Australia. They've killed a lot of Native Americans and Native Canadians. They killed a bunch of Chinese with opium. They killed or they caused to die from overwork a lot of slaves, meaning black slaves, African slaves. I'm neither African nor am I black. Would you affirm that?
Yeah, I can affirm that. Affirmative.
I don't care if I'm not black. I don't like anybody killing black people just because they're black.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And, you know, it's all tying together. This is all tying together.
Yeah, divide and conquer and kill us all.
Yeah, it is. Everywhere you look. And when I met you in October, that was why I wanted to talk to you, because I grew up on a family farm. And I, you know, came on the show, talked to you and Phil, and I, you know, told you how we lost our farm, you know, basically.
And I figured out what your name was.
Yes, you figured out my name is Driscoll, that I, you know, was from the same area that you
said
were.
East Grand Forks and potatoes.
Yeah.
And I said, any chance your name's Driscoll?
I know. And then, I mean, all of it's tied together. I said in the show that I do with James, like, just the fact that your name is Field, to me is just so cool, because you are planting seeds everywhere.
I'm doing that on purpose, but don't give me any credit. No one, please.
I understand, but I understand.
Yeah, I am planting seeds.
Yeah,
and I've been asked to.
And we like everybody that's associated with AbelDanger and everybody that's listening right now, this is all happening for a reason, you know. I mean, we're all tied together.
And the reason is capital G-O-D.
It is God and divine timing. It's divine.
Let me tell you two things I think you don't know, and I don't know what you know because we didn't talk, and you didn't tell me a single question.
No.
Two things that I'm taking a break just to encourage everyone. Two things that have happened today, not yesterday, today. You're aware that my wife has been blocked from coming into the U.S. That's one good thing that happened today, and it's not what you're anticipating, but it's pretty close. The second thing, you know, the Driscoll farm we're talking about in Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's movement on that front that I truly believe. Now, I've disciplined myself to believe it 50-50 because it's either going to happen or it's not. I'm 100% confident that the people that I talk to on that project are being honest with me. But ladies first, when my wonderful wife, the first word I thought was beautiful, but see, people misinterpret that. They would think I'm saying she's physically beautiful, and that's for beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But she's intellectually and emotionally beautiful, and I just love her without limit. But she emailed me over the course of the night sometime. It would have been about, I'm guessing it would have been about 9 o'clock her time, 3 in the morning. she started sending me emails, and I, of course, didn't see them at 3 in
Yeah.
the morning because I'm sleeping like a baby until about 4:30 in the morning, which is why I'm tired. The first email, well, let me back up so these people can understand it. Customs has been dragging their feet with our visa.
Was George Bush involved with that, do you think?
Well, George Bush's network was. There was a guy named William Stevenson who in World War II was a Canadian that worked for the evil Bush UK Vatican uh, complex. And he had a call sign or a nickname, Intrepid. Well, here we go. Because when that Stevenson, I think it's William Stevenson, somebody in the chat room could tell me. In fact, it'd be really handy if Phil could have shown up. I was expecting him, but he could have watched the chat room and give you. Yeah, but anyway, Stevenson was a Canadian Brit who was evil. And when he died in roughly 95 to 99, my sister, Christine Marcy, took over that evil task. And oftentimes people say, well, you must not like your sister. Nobody likes people that are engaged in pedophilia, murder, and treason. And if you were to Google pedophilia, murder, and treason, you'd probably get the name Christine Marcy with a K, but I'm digressing again. Oh, yes, I wanted to tell you, Denise got overnight.
I was just gonna say,
They only wanted one thing from her to issue her the visa. They wanted to see proof that the UK law enforcement people didn't have her guilty of any crimes that would be unfavorable from US. And she did have a moving violation in a car. But when she got the paperwork this morning, and I'm going to show you my brain is working better than my mouth because I'm really tired, but I'm going to write this. Can you read those two words? Yeah, the paperwork came and it said, you know, from the UK police to Denise Irene Clark McConnell. I love saying that. It said, we've looked at your record and we see no trace. And then there's a paragraph lower that says what no trace means. It says there's nothing in your record. So that's a clean bill of health. So with that, she immediately went to FedEx in Frimley, Frimley, and she emailed the proof that she's not a troublemaker, which I'm smiling now because my father's airplane was, that one's Sweepy Time Gal, his other airplane was Troublemaker. But she went right to FedEx. I can't believe how quickly she moved because, you know, I moved pretty fast for an old guy. Of course, she's not as old as me. She's only 52. She's a whippersnapper. But she went right to FedEx and mailed it. So it'll be in Portsmouth, New Hampshire tomorrow morning.
Nice.
When the sun comes up, FedEx
So that should be it, the last step.
Well, that's the beauty of this. They also should have told me in the same letter they told her, because it all comes to me also, because I'm the sponsor or whatever. They should have asked for her police record and my birth certificate, because when she and I collectively sent the package, I didn't have my birth certificate and I couldn't possibly get it because I'm in England and you have to have something notarized. So I said, I've given you everything you want except the birth certificate. Major thought. Oh, I hope I remember it. But anyway, yeah, if you say major thought, that'll do it.
Okay.
I put in there a statement, like statement S1. I said I cannot provide a birth certificate because I'm in the United Kingdom because my wife can't be with me in the States, so I'm over here with her, which, by the way, it's against the law to separate a man from his wife.
Yeah.
And right now the penalty is $6 billion. That's with a B, $6 billion.
And growing by the day.
Well, going by whatever 4 times 1.44 million is, and it's based on the principle, the lawful principle, if a government steals time away from a human, like if they throw you in jail for being a psychiatric mess. Yeah, they tried that with, well, they started that with me, and I'd seen it so many times. I said, see you later, guys.
Yeah, it's one of their favorites.
Yeah, but anyway, they did not ask for my birth certificate. What does this tell me? I'm not sure I'm right, and I've got to moderate myself enthusiasm-wise. But I think, for whatever reason, they fully intend to schedule her for an interview at the U.S. Embassy and stamp her passport with a visa.
Oh, good.
Okay, the other thing, someone who you may have talked to on the phone called me this morning and said, I want you to know I just sent you 4 pieces of paperwork. And I said, okay, I'm really good with numbers, 4. And I said, what's the paperwork? And I'm this person's power of attorney. I said, what's the paperwork about? He says, well, you're my power of attorney, and I've just committed to donating X number of dollars to the United States Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation in honor of, I got to get the ranks right. Colonel Frank Cuddy, U.S. Marine helicopter pilot, and Colonel James Sabo, the guy that was in the recruiting magazine with me. Colonel James Sabo was murdered by George H.W. Bush. George didn't pull the trigger, but he authorized it in a phone call. Colonel Cuddy died of natural causes, if you believe that cancer is natural. Well, if 100% of the bodies in the world have latent cancer, I don't think cancer is the problem. And so I'm not going to say that he was murdered by the medical community, but typically the medical community doesn't tell us what we need to know, which is natural remedies. We're all born to survive. That's why God created us. But that's my good news for the day. The ranch in Texas is looking better. And I know that because the person that committed to the Marine Corps wouldn't have done that if that person who's responsible and honest, unlike our government, he wouldn't make a commitment if he didn't know he could back it up fairly soon. So yes, I think Denise will be back, and yes, I think Denise and I will be in Texas. And well, I'm going to Texas, and I think she'll be back for this. I've been invited to speak at Caravan to Midnight. I have no idea why they want me to speak, and I don't care. But anyway, I'm speaking. I'm supposed to speak there on the weekend of 9, 10, 11 November, which is Veterans Day. It's also the Marine Corps birthday. And
it's all perfect timing.
Well, we might actually have the ranch. So
it's all coming together.
It
all
is.
Right, I have a couple more questions related to that I think people want to know about George H.W. Bush.
Oh, okay.
When did Kissinger start working for you, George?
That's a really good question I can't answer, but it was back in the 70s, I'm guessing. Do you know the answer?
I don't. How did Kissinger help you get
Kissinger's a globalist.
Appointed as the premier of China? Any idea?
Oh, he wasn't the premier of China. He was the ambassador to China. And see, China was supposed to be our enemy at that time.
I'm trying to drop some, just drop some bombs here, some knowledge. People don't realize how tied together all these people are.
Well, they are tied together through global banking, but that when you hear global banking or global control or new world order, I'm going to get something. I have a very
We heard it from Mr. Bush himself, talking about the New World Order.
He's stupid. No, I shouldn't say he's stupid. He's foolish. And foolish is the opposite of wise. Here it is again. It's the speaking I did about pedophilia. See, all of the people around the world that are trying to oppress the world are pedophiles. And if there's any exceptions to that, I haven't heard of them. They're either pedophiles or pedophile tolerant. I would like to think there's oh, look at this. Somebody put a picture of me in my trash hauler.
Nice.
I got kicked out of fighters because of my mouth and my truth.
Yeah.
And this is Colonel Sabo when he was a captain. But his airplane and my airplane were just across the field.
Yeah.
I was on the west side of the field, and he was on the east side of the field. And see, when they murdered him, they didn't know that. Well, to this day, there's nobody in the Marine Corps, there's nobody in Navy intelligence, there's nobody in Marine intelligence, which strangely enough is a higher office than Navy intelligence. But there's nobody in the intelligence world that knows for sure what my relationship with Colonel James Sabo was, except, well, I won't play games with that. Denise, I'm pretty sure I've told her, but she won't tell anybody. But I offer all the time. I'll talk for 15 minutes on my relationship to Colonel Sabo as soon as we get the murder charges started and I get invited into a courtroom that doesn't have gold French flags.
Good. And you are commemorating him on your license plate of the limousine, or I'm sorry, the hearse outside.
Oh, it's got license plates.
Yeah.
Would somebody in the chat room please put up the front or the rear license plate of the Sabal hearse because it's got panels in the middle glass window. Now, a lot of people might think Field is nuts. He drives around in a hearse. No, I don't. The car is 22 years old. It's only got 22,000 miles, and I didn't just make that up. I backed that out of the garage today for the first time since your friend Phil, who should have been here today. Phil Roberts asked me in January, he said, my dad died. I said, I'm sorry to hear that. He said, well, don't be too sorry. He wanted to go. And I said, I understand. My parents were both like that. He said, I'd like to ask you a favor. And I said, okay, go ahead. Whatever the favor is, you got it. And he thought I was talking about a Roy Orbison song. No, he said, I didn't tell you what the favor is. I said, friends don't need to know what the favor is. If I can do something for you, I'll do it. So now that I've already granted your favor, what is it? He said, I want to drive my 93-year-old dead father, veteran, down to the, not the hospital, a little too late for that, down to the veteran cemetery in Omaha so he can be buried beside my mother, his wife. And I said, well, I've already approved this. So you don't have to give me any more details. So he took my hearse and took his.
There it is.
Oh, thank you. Who do I thank? I think I know. I'm right. Go Banks. Go Banks' name is not Go Banks. It's Gordon O. Banks. But if I were to say Gordon O. Banks, I might expose him as Agent Gobsmack. And according to what I've been writing lately, Agent Gobsmack's going to join Agent Vulcan, Agent Troy, Dice, Sierra Mike, and myself. But I don't use agent names. I'm Field McConnell, U.S. Marine Corps 011-6513. Come and get it.
Yeah, we don't hide our.
No, I don't.
Have fake name. We have fake names, but we show our face, we show our voice.
Show your license plates.
Might have camo on or a disguise or a wig or an afro or hats, but that's about it. All right, I got to ask about Ronald Reagan. Were you involved, perhaps? Who shot Ronald Reagan?
The CIA shot him, and I want to be corrected.
And you were head of the CIA at the time, right, George?
Oh, George, yeah. Yes. No, I was the vice president at the time, and Ronald Reagan was the president. But I had come from CIA, and I'm looking to see if Jack Mack's here, and he is. Jack Mack knows more about the projectile that hit Reagan, and Jack Mack could probably, and I hope he does, and I'm asking him to, please. If Jack Mack could put up in our chat room what the projectile was and whether it ricocheted and missed its target, or if there were two projectiles and one hit the target. But whatever the projectile was that hit Reagan, I believe it hit right under his rib cage, under one of his arms, which raises the question: either somebody who is an assassin messed up the shot, or they never wanted to kill him anyway. Yeah. Because the reason, and by the way, Bush had been in the CIA since 1953, and we're talking about 1981. And off the top of my head, the 30th of March of 1981. And that's the point where Ronald Reagan, who is very well loved, only because Americans are so easy to fool.
Oh, yeah.
Look at all the people that think that Hillary's wonderful.
Oh, I know. Yeah, exactly. They got the nice looking actor in there, the all-American guy. And
I actually liked him too, but I was asleep back then.
Same here. And I always make the comparison too, like if our media, back in, because I'm a kid from the 80s, right? I was like, that's a really influential time for me. I was born in 76.
Yep, that's bicentennial year.
Yeah, so exactly, that was bicentennial, baby. And you fit like the just say no to drugs and all that stuff. But we had so much respect for, Ronald Reagan.
I did too.
And now, like, even my dad and I were just talking about this because I'm trying to red pill them slowly about.
Bring him here and let him sit in here for 1 hour.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Off camera.
Yeah, it'll happen eventually. But I was saying to my dad, because he's addicted to the TV. I mean, news, and he's still old school, right? Anyway.
This proves we're not.
Yeah, I'll hold that thought.
No, let's see who it might possibly be. Not anybody I want to talk to.
Okay, but my point to my dad was the deep state, what they're doing to Trump right now, because my dad is like, he's trained to be a Democrat, right? Because DFL, Democratic
Sure,
Farmer
they don't
Labor.
care if you're a Democrat or Republican
Yeah.
as long as you're ill-informed.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And my grandpa and great grandpa were both county commissioners for Polk County, and they were both, DFL party. So my dad, he's a farmer. I mean, he was always representing what he thought was best for the farmers. But I was like, Dad, what are they doing to Trump? I mean, the way that they crucify him. Think if this was the 80s, the media would have never done that to Ronald Reagan. That was my way of kind of planting a seed, like, at least Trump is calling out fake news for being fake. I'm like, Dad, they're fake. Like, look at all these networks. They can say whatever they want. And I didn't say it like that, but he was like, that's a good point. Yeah, we really did respect,
Well, do you think your dad will have any way of seeing this interview?
Well, my plan is eventually they're going to get the message. But yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I'd rather have them meet you first. Which,
well, I think this is sort of off topic, but
yeah.
Isn't your dad going to use my trailer? Yes. Yeah, well, I'll meet him.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just that, I've been, I only woke up 2 years ago. So like when I started planting the seeds of what I knew, JFK and all that, they thought I was nuts, and that happened to me where I did get institutionalized. And I mean,
overnight or for a week? For
more than, I mean, they thought I was losing my mind. They thought I was suicidal, all of it, So the mental health thing, that's another reason why I knew you and I were supposed to meet too, because, they did that to you, because I also had a lot of information on my company that they wanted to shut me up about.
Okay.
Oh, well, then you're crazy. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you a hypothetical, and you tell me if this could happen in America. Our energy network, our infrastructure, would it make sense for natural gas or gasoline or oil or nuclear power or electricity? Would it make any sense at all if one of those industries, doesn't matter which one of the largest services corporation was owned by Muslims? Would that seem like something good to you?
No.
Okay, I'm not trying to suggest that happens, but
Certainly
I don't know.
Wouldn't, no.
I don't know how to spell 5G, but I think there's a lot of people in the chat room that know about 5G, and and over in England they have smart meters, which is not good.
And all of it, I know how it's built. I know how the infrastructure is built, and I try to expose that. But the thing is, the people need to understand too that's why I love the Tesla question. Is there are free energy? We're enslaved to these utilities as well. I mean, come on, big picture, the gas and electric being together, and this is something you and I talked about too. Look what it did to Grand Forks. The town started on fire. First it was flooded, and then the town caught on fire because the gas and electric, burned up the downtown. I mean, thanks for the fire. Thanks for ruining our economy. Thanks for devastating our town. I mean, you can see so clearly what was going on in 1997 once you're awake.
What was the name of the lady? Can you remember the mayor? The female mayor?
Yeah, Judy Brown,
I can picture her. I can't remember her name, but wasn't she thought of very positively?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, well,
Judy. Yeah, I can't remember her.
Somebody in the chat room will put it up. Mayor of the Grand Forks fire, 1997.
1997. Yeah.
But the people that did that, they showed their hand. David Hawkins and I see all the time in the patterns. They use the same pattern over and over. The thing that I picked up on, and if Jack Mack's listening, and I think he picked up on it too. Sometime after you came into the AbelDanger tent, we talked about that, and you showed me a picture, or somebody in the chat room put up a picture of a unique airplane flying.
I sent it to you.
You sent me that picture?
Well, over the town with the whatever this spray is. What's it called?
That aircraft was a P-2,
a
Lockheed P-2 Neptune, and it was probably a fire bomber. But when they were putting the chemicals in the river and the town to suppress the flames, they were also putting unknown chemicals into the river.
Of course.
And that river, for people that aren't familiar, is one of two rivers in America that flow north. So not only were they trashing a lot of some of the most productive, this sounds like I'm making it up, out of the 10 most productive agricultural counties in America. 7 of them are in North Dakota or across the river in Minnesota, and the other 3 are in Illinois. So if they can, and it flows north, so you can ruin. Did they have any crop failures?
Canada.
Yeah,
Well,
you can ruin
yeah,
Canada
we
too.
did. I mean, all of it. It's all connected. Yeah. I mean, my family eventually had to get out of farming.
They just
You know?
want them to be dependent on the government.
Of course. And the other thing is, it's a hotbed for sugar beets. You know, and but it's all corporate farms, all corporations. So let's grow the, you know, some of the worst things for us.
Yeah.
GMO sugar, GMO wheat. You know.
There's certain countries that won't allow GMO in, and as one country and then another country, and notice I didn't say anything about what's his name, Bill Gates. I didn't say anything about Warren Buffett. But there's people out there that would use food or vaccines to kill generations of people. I'm going to go back. I'm going to write myself a note. I do this all the time. You know, I'm going to write a 2-word note because I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on in 2 words that nobody can anticipate.
Can I ask George another question?
Yeah, okay, I'm George now.
Yeah. Any comments on Leo Wanta?
He's from Wisconsin, and he had trillions of dollars, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he's alive today.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's supposed to be talking, is he?
I think he's got the money back. I don't know, but I thought
Well, watch
maybe
this.
George would want to know.
George probably does know, but George may not be happy about it. And so I'm going to put that to the chat room. What is the current disposition of Leo Wanta? But he participated in a lot of these Bush crimes, and he would have some pictures of the skeletons in the closet. And what do I mean like that? By that, on the day that Adler Berryman Seal was murdered by the George H.W. crime syndicate, he, in his wallet, he got shot in a Cadillac outside a safe house, not a safe house, an overnight place. He was being confined. He was the biggest cocaine importer in the history of the U.S. Prior to the government taking over from him, which is why Sable was dead. But Barry Seal was a...
I was just going to say his name. Sorry.
Somebody was just going to ask?
I was just going to bring that up because tying this all together, Tom Cruise just played him in a movie called American Made.
Yeah, well...
I just watched it. Of all people, Tom Cruise plays Barry Seal.
He's a wannabe. Yeah, and maybe it would be better if Tom Cruise could come to think of himself as American Maiden.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
he played that part of a fighter pilot, and he didn't play it very well. I think if he had been in any fighter squadron in the Navy or the Marine Corps, they would have thrown him over the side of the carrier, not try to kill him. I mean, because there's a helicopter, when there's flight ops going on, there's a plane guard helicopter behind the carrier and offset so it doesn't get hit by the airplane's landing. But he's not a convincing fighter pilot. He's a convincing dweeb. Mm-hmm. And fighter pilots aren't the easiest people to like. They're not, because they tend to have a big ego from people's perspective of not being a fighter pilot. But do the math. The fighter pilot's job is to go out and meet something that you don't know what's out there and prevail. Well, if you don't prevail 100% of the time, you're dead. Now, what do you think the medical malpractice rate is? Do you think there's a fair number of people that die at the hands of AMA every year?
Of course.
Okay, mathematical question. The trial attorneys in this country, which are all controlled by the Brits through Northern Trust, through the ABA, American Bar Association, which licensed them. Maybe I shouldn't say license, maybe I should say as their professional network. But see, the ABA and the IRS, the tax people, they're both private corporations, and I won't deal with either. I'm not a corporation.
Right. And people still, they don't understand. I have to leave in about 10 minutes. So what I'd love to do, though, is will you summarize, because again, I think there's some good talking points here, and I'll cut this video down. For those people that when George does pass away, hopefully today.
Yeah. I hope if he's
going
to die, I hope it's by 9/11.
Yeah, let's hope it's today. What can you summarize exactly what he's been responsible for and the level of evil that George Herbert, Walker Bush is, please.
Yes.
And then I can ask you those as well.
Yeah, I'm going to show you how messy I write.
Because again, it's happening. I mentioned too in that interview with James I did on the 13th. We've had twice as many YouTube subscribers since I've been around in the last 6 months.
Oh,
Twice
good.
as many.
Oh,
That
good.
to me means people are finding you. They're waking up, and people, I about threw up all the Barbara Bush memes that I got on my Facebook. Oh,
Oops,
Barbara said this and that. It's just like, really, people still think these people are good. So if you would, please summarize what people need to know about him.
Well, here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to start off by saying Barbara Bush, I'm not sure she's dead. And the reason I say that was closed casket, and the Secret Service stayed right by the casket until it was in the ground and buried. So how do you know what's in there?
And Trump didn't go.
Well, I'm happy Trump didn't go. I thought that was classy.
I loved it too.
Yeah,
I know.
that was dishonoring and honoring at the same time. So he's like 12-dimensional gamesman. Yeah, I like it too. But
so she might not be dead, but let's hope George is. Yeah.
Well, it goes back to one of the very first questions. Does Barbara
know
Bush about what his? Of course she had to, because she could read the papers.
Alistair Crowley's granddaughter?
I think so.
She looks
No,
just
no,
like
no,
him.
no,
Daughter.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, I think she is.
She looks exactly like him. Seriously.
Let's hope this is not Ohio.
Oh.
Make it quick. It's not Ohio.
Michael, I'm sorry. Did you want to talk during the show here?
We're going to be done in 10 minutes. I can call back.
Okay, because I have to leave in a few minutes. So I was just asked a question, a field that I'd like him to answer.
Did I answer? Yeah, I got it right here.
No, you got 7 things, but I want you to summarize them. Can he summarize them first?
Yeah, I'll call him back right after the show.
Back. Okay. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. 3-star. I thought maybe he was going to contribute something about George W., but he said he got a call from a 3-star Marine general, and they'll call you back.
Oh, I know what that is, but that's...
Okay. So good. Yeah, let's hear the 7 reasons why we Americans should not honor the 41st president, G.H.W. Bush, when he dies.
Well, first and foremost, he's not an honorable person. He's a liar. And I say that based on a quote. He was talking to a senior veteran journalist from Texas named Sarah McClendon in 1990, I think, or 91, and somebody will correct me. And he smiled thinking that she's a woman and she's from Texas. So he thought that she would drink all his Kool-Aid, and based on the Texas saying, she wouldn't squeal. He said, Sarah, if the American people knew what we were doing to them, they'd chase us down the street and string us up. So he admitted it. Yeah. So yeah, he's a very bad person.
Good one. Yeah.
The big things he had an involvement in Cuba on the Bay of Pigs, but it's evil, but it's not as evil as what he did next. JFK, he participated in the assassination and the planning of the assassination of JFK on November 22nd of 63. November 21st, there was a party in Dallas. He was at the party, and the people, that's my belief, I can be corrected, I want to be corrected if I misspeak, but a guy named Clint Murchison Sr., who was a Texas banker and oil man, it was in his home that the party for all the people that were going to kill JFK the next day gathered in. So his involvement with JFK was they needed to get JFK out of there so they could escalate the war so that LBJ, and see, where was Barbara?
Yeah.
Houston, Texas. There's a Texas connection. And, he and LBJ wanted to get the Vietnam War cooking so their drinking buddies could make billions. So that's one thing. I dislike him, or I disrespect him for that. He did JFK. Yep. You've never heard of Air 1285, have you? Mm-mm. I love it when I'm wrong, so let's see if I'm wrong. I believe it was the 20th of December of 1985. There was a nuclear army mission over in the desert. This is 1985, 6 years before the first war, or 5 years. The U.S. Army troops from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, were going to attack I don't know if it was a French or an Iraqi, I think it was an Iraqi nuclear power plant built by the French, and they were going to go out and put tactical nuclear weapons around that thing and blow it down. Well, somebody knew they were coming, and they had a robust defense force kill a couple of the uh, special operations military guys. And so I like enlisted people. They do the work. It's sort of like in a hospital. The nurses do the work and the doctor gets paid. The same thing in the military. The enlisted are the force projectors and the officers get medals. Sick. So anyway, these military guys looked around. They said, somebody squealed. They knew we were coming. Let's get out of here. So and that's called sort of like a mutiny or a failure to follow orders. I applaud them. They knew somebody had to give them the details. Just like in Mogadishu, Bill Clinton gave the attack plan to Boutros Ghali, and that's why they have the movie Black Hawk Down. That's because the Clintons told the Mozambique, or that's not where it is, Mogadishu, that our army guys are coming in helicopters on, this day at this time from this azimuth. And so they killed a bunch of people. They dragged American military men through the street. They dragged them. That's on Clinton's watch. But Clinton, Bush, Obama, my sister Christine, Marcy, they're all equally guilty, because if you do evil once, that's it. If you do evil 31 times, it's still it. It's the same penalty. The penalty is written in Hebrews 10:26. But anyway, Arrow Air, they put 2 corpses and all the military guys on Arrow Air. Arrow Air operated from a German Air Force base to Halifax, Nova Scotia, I think, or was it Gander? I think it was Gander. And it stopped there for fuel. Okay, so the airplane with 256 innocent Americans is on the ground in Gander refueling. Some people approach the airplane and do something on the ground level. The airplane tries to take off. The official story is it got iced up, which is false. But what had happened was George H.W. Bush had told the CIA to make sure that aircraft doesn't get back in American airspace because there's nuclear weapons. And these people were not, there was no government approval of G.H.W. Bush attacking a foreign nuclear plant with nuclear weapons. So he had to scratch them. So he killed 256 there. A couple of years later, and I really don't know what year it was, I think it was 1989, somebody will correct me, the USS Iowa was one of 4 battleships, the others being the New Jersey, the Wisconsin, I don't know, maybe South Dakota, somebody will tell us. But they brought these 4 battleships out of mothballs, and the skipper of one of them, the Iowa, had some government people on that were going to report back to G.H.W. Bush. And so the guy overexerted himself militarily. He wanted to launch artillery shells from the, I said Iowa, and I think that's right. Pretty sure it's right. It's either that or New Jersey, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. The truth is that G.H.W. Bush was responsible for the death of 47 sailors when one of those 16-inch gun mounts turrets blew up because the captain of the ship, who's a Naval Academy graduate a couple of years ahead of me, he wanted to impress Bush. So he effectively killed 47 sailors. But Bush is the guy that's on his watch. It must have been the Iowa, because I wrote Iowa. Yeah. Then Desert Storm 1, when he wanted to go over to Desert Storm 1, and I want to be corrected in writing, FIELDMCC@yahoo.com if I misspeak. Yeah, we are getting close to your time. I'll speed this up.
I can go. You can keep, I mean, you
don't. Oh, no, I don't need to talk. Desert Storm 1.
Desert Storm 1 and 2.
He was involved in 1 because, and they killed Sabo, Colonel Sabo, who was a pilot with me. They killed Sabo because he couldn't do Desert Storm 1 if everybody knew he was hauling cocaine. Then he had his son, who allegedly, it's not my testimony, but there's people who don't think his son is overly bright, and they do think his son drank a lot and used cocaine a lot. I don't know, but you can prove it's wrong. if it is wrong. And then the last thing, he made $1 trillion on 9/11. George H.W. Bush made $1 trillion. Good place to rest our case. Why was George W. Bush in Florida talking about Sophie the goat, and his father was in the White House on September 10th? The night before 9/11, G.H.W. Bush was in the White House, and he had goons like Condoleezza Rice, Lynn Cheney, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, and Christine Marcy and Hillary Clinton do his dirty work for him, and he got the $1 trillion. You need to go?
You summed it up beautifully.
Oh,
thank you.
I've been doing this for 11 and a half years.
9/11. I mean, if I see anybody posting pictures of him, when I'm gonna have to go nuts again.
Oh, don't go nuts. They want us to go nuts. They want us to be dead. They want us.
When you're awake, though, I mean, I don't even know I look at Facebook anymore. I just pop in here and there and look at and kind of check on things. But yeah, you have to laugh when Barbara, that whole thing. Yeah, there's something going on.
Well, that's why I invited you to.
Their time is up. It's up.
Oh, it's up. And if nobody wants to open the Bible, perhaps people in the chat rooms that are familiar with the Bible, if you take a look at what happens to the enemies of God, it's written in Hebrews 10:26, and it means, well, roughly it says, if you continue to sin after knowing the truth, there is no expectation left for you but of a fiery death.
Yeah, and have a good time. I'm gonna. Gobank says, can you ask George who he thought made the bomb intended to kill him or appeared to be intended to kill him in Kuwait?
No, I don't know.
Good
but
question.
George G.H.W. Bush tried to kill G.W. and G.W. I think tried to kill G.H.W. Bush. I'll tell you what, Jack Mack and Gobsmack would certainly be more capable of answering that. So if they send me an email, fieldmcc@yahoo.com, I will put in their composite opinion without identifying them, even though I just clearly said Jack Mack and Gobsmack. Well, that doesn't mean I could put in all Gobsmack or all Jack Mack, and then it's up to them to say, no, it's somebody else must did it because I didn't do it. But I've never gotten anybody in trouble yet, not once.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I think it's also a civic duty.
It is, and I just, the timing is awesome because I see every day things are happening, and I'm really excited about. Good is winning, and we're on the good team.
Oh yeah. Good is winning, and there's somebody that I communicate with a lot who is frequently saying, well, if America doesn't do this, they're going to be dead. America's not going to be dead no matter what anyone thinks unless God allows it.
We have to have the right attitude, and that's why I want people, we got to keep red pilling people, so keep sharing the word, everyone, and thank you for tuning in and listening.
Okay, well, I'm worried about you getting home for your daughter.
No, I'm going to go, yeah.
Okay, then I can turn this off, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I'll leave it on. I'll leave it on, and I'll come back, and I'll go through the chat room, but I'll go make sure.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
I'll be right back, folks. And then after that, I'll talk to Denise. And after that, I'll talk to the guy.
I was hoping that Field was going to dress in costume, but.
I was going to. I ran out of time.
Yeah.
That's okay. Denise wouldn't
we were hoping to make it more of a parody, but, we got the gist across. I think.
And it is a serious thing, so.
Yeah. You don't have to walk me out. I'll just.
Okay, I'll be right back. I just want to make sure that she gets her stuff in the car.
Keep talking, because I got to look for my phone.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. When you and Phil were cleaning the office here recently, you discovered something that I had forgotten about, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but like yesterday, I got this very nice carving from Shelley's Blues, and it's Jesus with a lamb.
Oh, I know. I saw that. Those pictures. I love that.
So you haven't seen it physically until right now, right?
No.
Yeah, touch it.
Oh, wow.
And that's representative of how much.
It's so cool.
Hey, I found your phone.
You did? Here, look at this. Isn't that neat? Jesus with the lamb. Thank you.
That's funny. I'll put it was right behind that chair. I'm going to hold up some stuff. And I'm not, there's nothing to brag about. God's doing it, and AbelDanger's appearing to do it. But a man in manufacturing in Canada sent this tribute to AbelDanger for what was supposed to be our Plum City Plunge in 2015. I'm sorry to say we didn't have a Plum City Plunge in 2015. But this is Craig Peterson's image of clear and present danger, I think. Yep. Then there's a picture of me and an AbelDanger martini glass. There's a picture of me with Vladimir Putin in a 37 Studebaker. There's a picture with me in a 357. There's a picture of me in a 36 Studebaker. The 37 Studebaker is long and gray. The 36 is a street rod. Here's a boarding pass from when I went to Malaysia. I got on Malaysia Flight 16 to start my journey back to America. Here's a picture that Craig Peterson did of myself and Andreas. I went to Germany to exonerate him because he was being used as a patsy. He couldn't have done what they said he did. Another thing from Craig Peterson, it's called Immediate Jasper. Oh, you're leaving. Okay,
Bye.
I'll be
Bye,
right
thank
back,
you.
folks. I just want to make sure. Did you get any baked item for you?
Yeah, I got one
okay.
for you. And you got it. You got
I'll be right back.
Thanks for doing this.
Oh yeah, I think it's fun too. So, you got everything? See you later. Yeah. Take care of these. Hey, look, where's there? I think. I know your brother. Matthew. J.R. Ford. Yeah. Let me know you get home safely via phone call or a text. Bye-bye. That was interesting. There's a local person named JR. I saw JR's tractor going by, but it was his brother, not him. So that was the conversation you might have heard. And I hope that's a piece of paper. Good. To honor this fellow from Canada, he also sent this picture of the hearse that's right outside of Jackknife that he apparently was working on the steel. Oh, this is nice. Denise will like this. Here's a picture of me in Denise's kitchen. The year we got married, 2015. And then I'll read this, and I'm not, I have no idea what's on here. I didn't read it before. Field, as I tend to watch a lot of videos on my smartphone, I wanted to come up with something that would allow me to watch hands-free. Thus, I designed the universal device prop, and I've got one right here. This is a universal device prop, and it says AbelDanger, and it says Ephesians 5:11 and Molon Labi. And Ephesians 5:11 is have nothing to do with the evil deeds of darkness. And the Molon, I can't pronounce it, MOLON-LABE, it's bring it. A military force in Roman or Greek times was being overwhelmed by a superior military force. The superior military force said, well, we won't kill any of you if you lay down your weapons. And the leader of the smaller force says, come take them. That relates to the Second Amendment. And I think there's a lot of people that have guns for self-defense that would say, like, when a state like Connecticut fakes a Sandy Hook thing, and then the Connecticut has a governor named Daniel Malloy, and he's got some type of a psychological or emotional frailty, and I'm not being disrespectful, I'm just telling you the truth. So those types of people are easier to control by the people that are trying to control our country and have been up until Donald Trump and the Marines took over. Anyway, I'm reading down here, and then it says, one of your biggest fans, Scott A. Dugan, D-U-G-G-A-N, and Kitchen. Oh, I know why. I didn't know what he was talking about. I just remembered what he's talking about. And it's not Denise's Hot Kitchen. It's not. It's the fact that the town he lives in, which I think is in Ontario, is spelled very similar to kitchen. So I'm going to go to the chat room right now, and I'm going to see if there's anything that I should have answered. Somebody put up a image. I'm just going to, I was right. It was the Iowa. Thank you, whoever did that. And oh, it's Go Banks. That's called a full broadside. That's when all three guns fire all three barrels. Unfortunately, you know, military is a dangerous profession for not only the people that are doing the firing, but the people that have the incoming. Gander, Newfoundland, thank you. Duke says, I was in North Africa then. We had a port full of equipment to get them, and Bubba's punk ass denied the assistance order. I didn't know it at the time, but learned it from Colonel Buzz Patterson's book. Now, I happen to be familiar with that book. It's called Dereliction of Duty, and what would you expect when you put a derelict in duty or on duty? Um, Clinton's mother was someone that was not necessarily hard to approach, and Winthrop Rockefeller Sr. Impregnated her in 1946 or 1947, and Winthrop Rockefeller is one of the Rockefellers, and so William Jefferson Clinton is really William Jefferson Rockefeller. I'm sorry I'm not going to take the time to go up in the chat room, but I will read it all, and if I need to put any comments in the radio show, I ask. Go Banks, I think we talked about that, yeah. The question was, who does George think made the bomb intended to kill him or appear to be intending to kill him in Kuwait, 1990, whatever? Would you please send me your opinion on that? Go Gabsmack and also Jack Mack. I know those two guys will have an opinion. David Hawkins question. Looks like a sleeping bag. That's a W-54 TAC nuke. Oh, by the way, the reason they got caught, they didn't get adjudicated, but the reason it became evident to the truth community or just honest, caring people is the man who made the weapon was the owner of a business, and off the top of my head, I think I can nail it. Accuracy Incorporated or Accuracy Systems of someplace around Phoenix, Arizona. And when that plane crash occurred, Air 1285 that killed 256 people and also 2 corpses in the cargo bin, the guy from Accuracy said, I recognize the way that aircraft went down. He says, I'm the guy that made the weapon. And so that was not an accident. It was not icing. It was murder. And that's something that should weigh heavy on the heart, if he had one, of George H.W. Bush. Okay, there's a picture of an F-16 firing a missile. That was fun. That was a long time ago for me. Note of the Mark says thank you to Marcy. Then let's see what this song is. I like songs. I like singing. It gets you a little bit of a mental reprieve from understanding the great evil that's hurting all the children. I wish I was in the land of cotton. In the land of cotton. Good times there are not forgotten. Oh, old times. Look away, look away, look away. If anybody else is watching this, Elvis is singing, looking right into the face of his lead guitar player. I'm going to stop this. The lead guitar player's name is James Burton, and James Burton, before he played for Elvis, he was the lead guitar player for Ricky Nelson. Ricky Nelson, as you may remember, died in a C-47/DC-3 going into Dallas Airport. I don't know anything about cocaine and cooking it, but they were cooking cocaine in the back of the airplane they were flying in, and airplane caught on fire and killed them all, which is really, we should all want everyone to live as long as God wants us to live. Martini glass. Then happy hour yet? It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Okay, it says, bye, Marcy. Marcy, amazing details. Oh, well, don't give me any credit for having a memory, but David Hawkins and I have been doing this, not constantly, but a normal day might have me, and I think him, up early in the morning and neither party going to bed until 18 hours later. That doesn't mean you can't take a nap. I'd like to take one right now, and I might after I talk to Denise and the other phone call. By the way, whoever called me from Ohio, I will text you. I won't call you because I have no idea who you are, and it's not like I need to be an answering service for the government. They can answer for their own transgressions. Yes, Agent J says Kitchener, Ontario. I'm glad you said that. I knew it was Kitchener, but I had just said the guy's name. And so I didn't want to identify him. I think he probably would be happy to be identified. Next time I call Scott Dugan, I'll ask him. I said, should I have identified you? But I don't know if I'll be calling him. I do have his contact details, I think. Dereliction of duty. Yeah, there that guy is. I've got that book, and Denise will be the first witness to see where that book is sitting in the bookshelf in my very not neat office. I might take a picture if I think of it when I get home in an hour or so. Let's see who we have here. Winthrop Rockefeller, uh, William Jefferson Rockefeller, and the mulatto son of a black hooker. I think his name's Dan. Danny? Yeah, I think it's Danny. Um, Interesting that Slick Willie is a rapist. Yeah, of course. These guys are all disgusting. James Burton, somebody picked up on that. Yep. It says James Edward Burton is American guitarist, member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame since 2001. Recognized Rockabilly Hall. Yeah, really interesting guy. Oh, he's 78 years old. TCB band, 69 to 77. TCB stands for Taking Care of Business, and Elvis had that on the tail of his airplane, the Lisa Marie. There was a lightning bolt and TCB, and that meant taking care of business in a flash. Let's see who this singer is. I recognize him. I don't know what the song is. Last too long. I think he died when he was 29. I'm not certain. He looks older than 29 in that tape. So I'm cutting this off because neither do you guys need to spend any more time here today on this impromptu show, but I've got things I'd like to do too. So I've come to the bottom. So I think I've answered everything, and we've had a fair amount of people here for an impromptu show, all the way from 3M down to Thunder. So thank you for sharing some time with us. Um, I'll go back now at some point, see if there's anything that I need to blend into the radio show ad, but I doubt if there will be. I would direct your attention on one of the top two um, images. There was an intro to this radio show that was made on very short notice by Craig Peterson, and I think he does a marvelous job. So maybe if people have time to take a look at that, they may be impressed with how quickly Craig Peterson came up to speed on this show. Um, this show was in question until about 45 minutes to an hour before we started, because there's a lot of moving pieces, and I would have enjoyed having Phil here today, but he has a business to run, and it appears that God has given me the business of exposing evil, and it's a business that doesn't pay. It actually costs a lot, but that's one of the problems with the world. And I live in America, but I'm also spending half my time roughly in the United Kingdom, and I can speak with authority on the United Kingdom and America, and our governments are not doing what they should do for their own people or to honor God. And I think when Queen Elizabeth took her coronation oath back in 1953, I believe the word God was in there. She appears to me not to be committed to serving God or the Lord and Savior of those of us who wish to honor him. I see the big red